This is it, guys. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. If you guys are hanging out with me for the first time, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that like button. I really would appreciate that. I don't know if you guys have heard the news, but there could be some rather large tax refund checks coming to the bank accounts of Americans. There could be some big old tax refund checks coming to a bank near you, and you could be one of them. In fact, our current president is working with the Department of Government Efficiency to save American taxpayers. I think they're up to $55 billion or something like that right now. And now their goal is $2 trillion, right? But what's really interesting about this is, based on what their plan is, this could end up throwing off some $5,000 tax refund checks. So you might be thinking to yourself, well, how are you coming up with that figure? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. President Trump and Elon Musk, they're working on cutting down on federal expenses and waste and fraud. And they have indicated very clearly that they want to send 20% of the savings back to American taxpayers in the form of refund checks. And I think that is a phenomenal idea. And one of the reasons why I think it's a great idea is because if that's what their plan is, and they actually execute on that, well, first of all, 20% of the $55 billion that they've saved so far, if you do the math and kind of you factor in, okay, well, how many eligible people would qualify for this? And when you do the math, it breaks down to roughly $5,000 per person if you only took the 20% savings from the $55 billion that they've identified as waste. So that's how that $5,000 check figure comes into play. But my question for you is, what's your plan with your money? Let's pretend you got the $5,000 check tomorrow or next Friday. What would you do with this unexpected $5,000 windfall tax refund check to make you and your family be that much better off? Now, a lot of people may do exactly what they did during the first couple of times that unexpected refund checks hit their bank accounts. You guys remember back a couple years ago, we got a couple of those checks. Well, I didn't qualify because I made too much money, which is not a bad problem to have, but I just didn't get one. And a lot of people, they ran out there and, let's be honest, a lot of people paid bills. There was a lot of people who were responsible. Some people paid bills with their previous refund checks. Some people, got caught up on rent. Some folks maybe paid off some debt. I know that there were a lot of people who ended up investing in the stock market. Some folks ended up trading options on the stock market, starting a business. Some people took a vacation or trip somewhere. I know there were not a lot of places that were necessarily open, but Florida was one of the states that was pretty much still open. And some people used that money to take a trip to where life seemed to be semi-normal still. And I think that's part of why Florida ended up getting so popular. Not that it wasn't already popular, but it became even more popular because it was one of the most open, freest states that had fewer restrictions compared to other states. And, Florida property owners, investors of Florida property, they came up big time through appreciation. We saw short-term rental fees going through the roof because it was one of the few places that people could actually vacation during that time. So now, most people have already blown their previous checks. So if Trump ends up sending these checks out again, number one, the cool thing is because of the source of where the money's coming from, theoretically, there should be zero inflationary impact as we had previously seen from the previous checks. So that's very good for the economy. It's very good for the US dollar, the strength of the US dollar. Like, what good is sending out checks if the money you send out only devalues the money that you get and the money that you have? And this is kind of how a lot of people who don't, this is how a lot of folks who don't own a lot of assets end up getting burned. Kind of like how they say the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Well, one of the reasons why that happens, and there's a number of factors for this, but one of the reasons why the rich get richer is because the rich have assets and the poor have, let me take a step back. The rich have assets and liabilities. Let's not get it twisted. They have both. But the rich have way more assets than they have liabilities, okay? Now, the poor has a tendency to accumulate more assets than the poor has a tendency to accumulate more liabilities than they have assets. And so that's what makes the poor, I don't want to say that's what makes the poor poor, but that's a byproduct of being poor. The root cause of being poor is a much deeper conversation, which I don't want to hold that conversation right now, but that's the biggest difference. The rich, they have way more assets than liabilities. The poor has way more liabilities than they have assets. All right, let's leave it right there, right? So now a lot of people are thinking to themselves, man, I can't wait till I get this $5,000 check, what I'm gonna do with it, right? Now, me personally, I can think back years ago, whenever I would get some unexpected money, if it came to me completely unexpected, like I wasn't expecting it at all, and it just suddenly hit my bank account or, showed up in my mailbox, I would immediately blow it. Now, if I had some unexpected money that I knew was coming in say a couple of weeks or something like that, right? I might pre-plan what I'm going to waste my money on. Now, that was the old me. That was the young me. It's like the old version of me when I was really, really young, if that makes sense, right? And it was that type of thinking, it was that kind of mindset that kept me broke. And I wonder how many other people find themselves in that similar situation. You get some new money and you immediately think about what you could buy with it. For me, back in the day, it'd be, what upgrade can I buy for my car? Should I trade my car in for something new? Everything was pretty much revolving around the car, either mods, wheels, performance upgrades, maybe getting a new car, clothes, sneakers. I'm a big sneakerhead. Like, that was just really what I was into. And to some extent I still am, but I don't see the value in a lot of that right now. And the odd thing is, now I can afford to pretty much buy whatever I want, and now I don't want to buy anything because I don't see the value. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's like, wow, like, I worked hard to get here. Now it's like, okay, now that I'm here, I don't want to buy anything. I just enjoy having a simple lifestyle and being able to spend time with my family and travel whenever we want to for as long as we want to and whatever. So there's that. But my question now is, because a lot of people, they bought a lot of toys and stuff that, maybe handbags, or they did what I did. They bought clothes. They purchased things that maybe gave them short-term immediate satisfaction, but there was no long-term wealth building or long-term appreciation of the item that they purchased. So for those who now have a second chance, my question is this: what's your plan this time around if you were to get an extra $5,000 check? Would you blow it like last time if you blew your last check? Would you save it? Would you invest it? Would you take the money and consider starting a business? Now, the thing I like about businesses is, if you start a profitable business, then the money doesn't go away. In fact, it would be the equivalent of taking that seed money, which money is a form of a seed, And what happens if you put seeds into the ground? Well, if you put seeds into the ground and you nurture them, you know, assuming the land is fertile and you ensure that it has proper water, sunlight, and time, that seed or seeds, those seeds, can yield far more fruit than you could ever imagine. Now, let's just assume that, I don't know if you can plant sunflower seeds, right? But I'm just going to use this as an example. Let's just assume that sunflower seeds is the equivalent to this $5,000, right? So you got 5,000 sunflower seeds and you got $5,000, right? Imagine you just ate these sunflower seeds. You get immediate pleasure, great snack, and then it's done. But it's immediately useless, right? And that's kind of like taking the $5,000. You could immediately consume it through going out to eat and buying consumer goods, a new TV, you know, some furniture that you didn't need, maybe some new clothes, an expensive pair of shoes. I mean, there's some shoes out there that cost, you know, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. Handbags that cost $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. Luxury watches. There's a lot of things that exist out here that can literally take up that whole $5,000 real quick. And a lot of these things, I'm not saying everything, but a lot of these things immediately become useless or worthless. Rather, the term is probably better said to be worthless after a very short period of time, which would be the equivalent of having eaten the sunflower seeds. So you can eat or wear your $5,000. You can eat your sunflower seeds, or you can plant those seeds rather than eating them. Planting them into fertile ground, planting them into fertile soil. If you plant that $5,000 investment into a fertile idea, can you imagine how much fruit could come from that initial seed, from those initial seeds, from those initial investments? There's a wise man who, I wish I could remember the name, who actually said this, but he said, any man can count the number of seeds in a fruit, but only God can count the number of fruits in a seed. And if you think about that, it's a very profound statement. Can you imagine how many fruits could literally come from one or two, or, you know, maybe a handful of seeds being sown into fertile ground? And the thing is you generally will reap far more than what you sow. Look at any tree around. Just look out the window. Look at any tree around that produces fruit. Now, think about how many seeds it probably took to grow that tree. Probably not that many. And then think about how many fruits that tree, I don't know what the term is, I'm not a gardener, puts off, how much fruit the tree grows or generates per year, and how many years the tree will tend to live for. Probably most trees outlive humans. I'm willing to bet that. So just imagine that. So if you invest in the right thing, you could literally eat for a lifetime versus eating once. Just some food for thought. These are the kind of conversations I tend to have with my students. And these are the kind of conversations that I just wanted to kind of have with you, because we all have opportunities. We all start life in different places. And some people have more advantages than others. You know, some people have less advantages than others, but we don't have any control over where we start, but we do have control over the choices that we make and The choices that we make dictate how we finish. So I do hope that this information, that this conversation was helpful to you in your decision-making skills as you encounter opportunities to come across new money. What you gonna do with it? Because the decisions you make could keep you exactly where you're at or make you worse off, or they could completely change your family tree and set your family on a trajectory of prosperity well beyond your wildest dreams and imagination. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I hope you guys found value in this video. Hit the like button if you did, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys on the next one.